Oh, welcome back to the final episode of Where Boro Walk in the most forgettable season for Middlesbrough many fans can remember, so say social media. Well, this week we're asking, is this the most forgettable season? I know you're so glad it's now over. Have we seen the last of Jonny Howson in a Boro shirt? And we're talking about who we want to win the playoffs, Sunderland or Coventry. Can you pick a winner between them two? And who do we want in our opening fixtures next season? And we'll try and pick a season highlight if we can as well. So join us for that. We've got Sean, Jonathan and Sarah back with us to discuss the end of this season. Sean, are you just glad it's over?
Yeah, pretty much. I think with 3 or 4 games left, we really still had plenty to play for, but we just seem to have sort of limped out of the season. It's just we've spoke a lot about a lack of dynamism, and I think there's been a lot of that in many aspects of our season. The coaching staff at times, I think, the management, the players. There's a few that are probably exempt from too much criticism, but for me, we're just a little bit too passive, and we've lacked leadership certainly, and a bit of fire in the belly, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, I know some of you went to Coventry. We'll talk about that game in a second. But where are we at, Sarah, for you in terms of the manager? We want to talk about another episode of Carrick in or Carrick out. But what are you understanding from looking at Twitter and reading the rumours circulating around the club? Is he safe this summer?
I honestly don't know. I think we'll know this week, one way or the other. There's been a bit of a conversation going on this afternoon already about whose fault it is and things like this. So I don't know. Personally, I still stand by the fact that I just think he's been dealt some rough cards this season. We've had some things go really against us, and I still stand by the fact that the mix of the squad is really poor. And yeah, I know it's not everybody's viewing it, and I know people are saying he hasn't done enough, but yeah, for me, I still think he's the right guy to go forward with. I think so.
With Luton going down, Jonathan, everyone's going to point to them as being the underachievers this season, given that they've had parachute payments and they've gone down. But underneath Luton, would you argue that you are in that bracket as one of the biggest underachievers, given the amount of money spent and the expectations?
Yeah, and that's the key word, isn't it? Expectation. So what we got versus the expectation last August was very, very different. And yeah, so you've got it as underachievement versus that. And there was an expectation of, was it top 2? We knew the strength of the teams, who had the parachute payments and the money they had. But we still felt we had a fighting chance, given we'd seen what Carrick can do with players, what he can do with teams. And yes, what I was thinking about this season, and I think the most disappointing bit I'll get to is certainly since January, since Lath's gone, since Doak's been injured, I think uninspiring is probably the most damning verdict I've got, and the one that I dislike the most. But that's the bit I feel, and yeah, so underachieving, uninspiring is probably 2 words I would associate with this season for
sure. No manager wants people feeling sorry for them, Sean. It's not a good emotion, sympathy. But do you share some sympathy with Carrick? Like Sarah says, he has had a lot to deal with in relation to, first of all, Lath putting when he went to Cardiff and he didn't want to travel and having all that to deal with, and injuries, and the team just hasn't gelled. Goalkeeper issues, of course, throughout the season. Do you feel sorry for him?
Elements of it, yeah, certainly. But I think the way in which we've played as well, we as a team, we build up very slowly from the back, and we try to draw teams out. It's well documented. But we're so narrow, and teams have done it more than once where they drive us in field. We have players like Azaz and Whittaker who like to come in field, but then we don't have the full-backs to overlap and provide that width. Certainly early on in the season, you got Dijksteer who likes to play the ball in and come in and attack. We had Borges, who's more of an inverted full-back. It's only since really Illing Jr. played there almost by accident that we found a little bit of width down the left-hand side. So teams narrow the pitch and it all condenses into one compartment. And because we build up so slowly, we're not dynamic. They can get in shape. They can, box out our threat. And yes, we've scored lots of goals, but I think because we have technically gifted players, it's almost like we score often perfect goals. If we don't really turn teams round, we very rarely have defenders and opposite teams running back towards their own goal. Every now and then it would have been nice. Obviously, when we had Dork, he provided that different threat where a ball could be dropped in to the channel he could run behind. But besides that, we didn't really have that plan B.
We don't have any pace though, do we, Sean? That's the problem all over the pitch.
We don't. We lack pace massively. And it's almost like we spoke online a little bit about Bergzorg being in a little bit of a purple patch. Whittaker came in and he cost about 6 million. And it was almost like, well, we spent all this money, we've got to find a place for him. We pushed Bergzorg out into a different flank on the right. We pushed Azaz out of his number 10 to accommodate these players brought in. Iheanacho arguably took the place of someone more deserving. It was all a little bit round pegs in square holes for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. You see a lot online about the whole plan B and what can we do different. And I also, give credit to people online on Twitter. Plan B, if you look at our bench, there ain't really much of a plan B there, to be honest with you, unless you go for a defensive, try and nick a goal at the end. So, it seemed to me the only plan B we could possibly have was, two. One, move the ball quicker, which is what Sean says. And two, do what we did against Leicester away last year. And you stick 3 at the back, wing backs, 4 in front of them, and have 1 up front and hope you nick something.
Yeah.
And that's certainly Carrick's way.
Do you think there was a case as well when we look back? I was looking at highlights. Obviously, we're in a short supply, but that early cup win against Leeds, we played a bit of a second string, and Coburn had a great game. And I just think, could Coburn have been a bit more of a plan B? Could he have offered a little bit of a different way of playing? Yes, he doesn't play necessarily to our plan A and our strengths, but he's certainly somebody different, and he battles and he wins a lot of duels and stuff. And I just, we lost Gilbert and Coburn, who, all right, Gilbert might not be quite the standard yet, but again, players maybe that would have changed games off the bench.
Yeah, but Gilbert didn't even get start for Charlton, so I hear what you're saying. I don't think Gilbert is better than Azaz or Whittaker, or there's a number of people who can play that role for the Iheanacho. I mean, Iheanacho, okay, maybe not, but I don't think. And Coburn, I don't know. I remain unmoved by him, to be honest.
Gilbert, I agree with what you're saying. Charlton, he didn't get a game, but I always remember at Southampton away, he came on and he affected the game in a big way. And did we draw away last season? I think we did, didn't we? We nicked a draw at the end, and it was because of him, to be honest with you. So I get it. His overall form long term is not being strong enough, but he showed glimpses of.
Well, he's got 4 or 5 assists even from the bench for Charlton. There's a player in there, but I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I'm clutching.
I don't know if you saw Coburn's miss for Millwall. At Burnley. We'll be talking about Coburn.
Was that Millwall in the playoff places then?
It was at 1-1, and you won't see a worse miss all season. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It would have.
Imagine the meltdown if Coburn put Millwall into the playoffs.
Oh my God! If that had got in, if he had scored that, you never know. Burnley won 3-1 in the end, but goodness me, what a season! Yeah, and of course Millwall finishing above Middlesbrough. Who'd have had that as a prediction at the start of the season?
And Blackburn.
Yeah, I mean, arguably all the teams above you, apart from the top 3, have got worse squads in my view. Right, let's switch gear then. Let's talk about Howson, shall we? Yes. So Chris on Twitter asks the question: is this the last time we see Jonny Howson in a Boro shirt? Jonathan?
Well, based on what Carrick said, he opened the door to say there might be a chance. I know he's a fan's favourite. Was he 37 next season? You know, you kind of think, and I know I'm going elite here, but you think of Henderson moving out of Liverpool, you think of Gerrard moving out of Liverpool. Then, they were great players who had, great accomplishments with those teams, but they moved on, and you wonder if this is Howson's moment to move on. That my head says that, my heart says I think we can get another season out of him, but my head says I think he's done.
Okay, Sarah, what do you reckon?
I mean, there's been discussions about him negotiating already a coaching contract, but I was there on Saturday, and that looked very much like a goodbye to me.
Yeah,
so maybe he's changed Yeah, maybe he's changed his mind and he wants to do something different. I don't know.
Okay. Sean, would you give him another year?
I'd keep him on for a year with potentially a view. I think he'll be a bit part player, whether he stays on or not. But yeah, hopefully we can sort of, whilst he stays on, sort of integrate him into the coaching staff a little bit. Although we're quite top heavy with ex-players already, aren't we? Woodgate and Ledbetter and so on. So we don't know we know what effect he has, and he's a great role model, and he'd obviously set a good example, but we don't know what his credentials will be. So I guess time will tell. But yeah, he's earned the right to have another year contract, I think.
Okay. Welcome, Craig. Hope you're doing okay. We'll throw this one at you. Many people are saying, and not just Middlesbrough fans either, but rival fans, where we spoke to them, saying that Boro fans up and down the country have been some of the best to turn up at the stadiums. You've been loud, you've been raucous, you've travelled in your numbers. And Chris said here that fans have turned up all season, the players mean well. And you know that what happens in that meme, Craig. It's a harsh question, this, but have the performances warranted this outstanding support at times? If travelling supporter paying this money, would you feel let down at the effort some players have been putting in?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, to be honest, especially the away support. I think I've been to quite a few away games over the season and they back them 100%. I think later in the season when we went through that bad run, kind of like February time, that there was a few kind of like boos and a bit of negativity, but that was literally like when the performances were that bad. And obviously you're travelling hundreds of miles and you're spending a lot of money to go and see it. And some performances this season haven't been good. So, yeah, I think especially our away support, we sell out wherever we go, travel hundreds of miles all around the country. The away fan base is very strong. And, yeah, they don't deserve some of the performances.
Sarah, if the season starts as it's finished, let's say we get to the first 6 games in and let's say we're stuck on 4 points or so, and how long do you give him before changes?
That can't happen. That can't happen. I just don't think he has that time. We have to hit the ground running, and it's very important to see who we bring in as well, recruitment wise. I'm not saying that I think he is going to stay. I actually think he potentially doesn't, but yeah, it's tough. My worry is that the fan base turns toxic, and that's the problem with all this.
There is one name I keep seeing on social media takes for the new manager. See if you guys agree with this particular take. Simon says, Jonathan, so we sell Latte, don't get injured in his natural placement, has been sold to Luton. What's left? Howson was the best player on the pitch, but he was substituted. Whittaker's a waste of money. There's one easy answer to all of this in 2 words. Steve Cooper. Right, Jonathan, respond to that one.
No, not for me. I don't know. He doesn't inspire me as a choice for new manager. But I'm still with the Carrick, give him an opportunity and give him a chance and allow him to develop. So my mind hasn't really gone to alternatives. And also, when my mind has kind of delved in there a couple of times, I know people say Cooper. I don't know off the top of my head someone that I think who I prefer more, as a better candidate. And Cooper certainly doesn't hit my mind as that. There's things Carrick can do better, and I'd rather that was the outcome as opposed to a new manager.
Sean, what about you?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I would quite like Carrick to stop on and make a success of it. Hope that we start like a house on fire. I wouldn't be excited by Cooper, to be honest. It doesn't really have me leaping out of my seat, to be fair. And also, I think the thing is, sometimes when we try these sort of like a new culture and a new way of sort of approaching the job, the concern is when it doesn't work out, we tend to sort of go for a more pragmatic manager, and that just switches me off a little bit. And I know sometimes clubs have to do it to gain a bit of stability and get a strong foundation, but it doesn't. You just sort of think, oh, it's just going to be boring. We're going to try and eke out 1-0 wins or draws or something. Maybe that's not the case, but I'd like to think Carrick has learned a lot from this season. I think the proof will be in the pudding, and if games aren't going our way, will he Will he change it up? Will he adopt a different style? I'm sure he will. I'm sure he's evolving all the time. And I think it's important we get the right people around him as well. You know, how much have we missed Aaron Danks now that he's moved on? It's maybe important that we supplement him with the right backroom team as well.
Okay. Tell you, get Sean Dyche. He'll get you up. He'll be boring as hell, but he'll get you up. Right. Thanks for that, all of you. We'll ask you for your 3-word summary of the season in a second. So get thinking on that. Some of the little bits and pieces then coming out before we wrap up. Then, Sarah, the new thing to this season was the 12:30 kickoffs that Sky brought in. We've had Friday night games, we've had Monday night games, and then this odd thing where we get 3 fixtures on an early Saturday. Now, given the distances you travel, I know you've had some stinkers in away games in that particular fixture. How do you think it's been this season? How do you think it's affected the fans? And there was a lot of moaning to begin with. Has it affected attendances? Has it affected atmospheres for you?
Definitely I think it's affected attendances. I think for me, the biggest problem with it is the time. You don't get enough notice, to be honest. So it's like 3 or 4 weeks before the game, you're getting to know. So it's making arrangements, making plans, especially if it moves to a Friday or a Monday. I booked a train ticket to go to Luton and then didn't think about it. Booked it weeks out, and then I was like, crikey, if this gets moved to Monday, I'm really screwed. So yeah, it's just things. Yeah, I just think it's not fair on the fans to give them such little notice. I actually like the 12:30 home games, to be honest. It feels like you kind of get the game done and then you've got the rest of your day to do stuff. I don't mind the 12:30 home games, but that's probably being selfish.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Craig, the playoffs then kick off on Thursday, Friday. You'll be watching on. They're not involved. Who do you want to win from the Friday night game between 2 teams you dislike a lot, Sunderland and Coventry?
I think out the 4. I mean, I think I don't want Wilder to go up because he's just the way he behaves, his mannerisms and everything. Like, from what I've seen this season, he hasn't learned. Like, he's still a petulant, arrogant.
You do surprise me. Yeah.
So he can get knocked out. But to be fair, I wouldn't mind if Coventry went up, and then at least we don't have that rivalry playoff thing with them next season. So they could turn Sunderland over 2 legs, a good battering, a good 8-0 aggregate, and then and then beat Sheffield United properly at Wembley as well, and then see Wilder crying on the way home.
Okay. Is there anyone here that wishes Sunderland to knock Coventry out, given your issues? No, you're all behind Coventry. Okay, good. Just checking. And then what are you? In Coventry in the final or Bristol City then?
Like Craig said, our record at Bristol City ain't too good either, to be honest with you. So either of them out the way next season would be quite handy.
I mean, Sheffield United Sheffield United win it, I think. And I also think that maybe it's good for us as a club that they're out. I don't know. But yeah, Heart, Coventry, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue with Sheffield United out of the picture that in terms of resources, Middlesbrough could be the biggest club. I know you've got parachute payments coming down. You've got Sheffield Wednesday as a huge club in terms of stature, but in terms of where the club is at, you've got everything going for you for promotion. I mean, you haven't really got a Leeds or Burnley.
Sounds familiar.
We've been here before, haven't we? Yeah.
Bothers me about Wrexham and Birmingham, though. I don't know how much money them lads have got to spend coming up next year. They could nick a few players out from a few people, that's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Good points. Right then, let's get our summary of the season. Any highlights that people want to throw out, Sean? Any particular moments that you can tell the kids about?
I wouldn't go that far, but I did enjoy the 3-0 win against Leeds early on in the season, albeit gave us a bit of a false hope, and we thought our second string could beat anybody, let alone our first lot. But not too many to choose from. I did enjoy the Sheffield United win. That was good. Felt like we were in the ascendancy, but again, it was a bit of a phantom win, if you like. But I'd probably go for those 2.
Okay. Sarah, any particular moment that?
Yeah, Leeds away as well in the cup, but also Hull. I think just the whole last minute winner, the Howson in the crowd. I think that was pretty exhilarating. So yeah, And then a few other games, QPR where was pretty good, and but Hull probably, I would think, overall.
Before we finish, just a massive thank you to everyone who's watched, supported, liked, subscribed. It's very hard to start any new content, especially when there's some amazing Boro podcasts out there, which I'm sure you all listen to. But thank you for being along with our journey with us, and massive thank you to all of you here, particularly Sean, who's been here from the very Sean has been here from the very start of this back in August. Thank you, Jonathan and Craig, and of course Sarah as well, for all your comments. Right, last one before we let you go for summer. Then sum up the season in 3 words, if you can, for us, Craig. Yeah, that'll do. yeah.
Bang average.
Okay, get with that, Sean.
Way too passive.
Jonathan.
Where would I go? Frustrating, inconsistent, uninspiring.
Sarah.
You took 2 of my words there, just for the record. I had frustrated, inconsistent, and then I said I also had bad recruitment.
Okay, we'll hyphenate that one.
Yes, make that one word.
Right. Listen, you'll have a great summer. We may be back here in 7 days' time talking about Carrick's exit. Who knows? But for now, we'll let you all disappear for a very, very well-deserved 2.5 months off. We'll be back on what day? When we'll be back? We'll be back the week before the new season kicks off. But we're doing short videos in between then, as we react, of course, to fixtures and new signings. So do keep your notifications on. We very much enjoying this content for you. Have a great summer, everyone. UTB.